Welcome, one and all, to our annual public second breakfast where we tell you the unequivocal, indisputable top 10 shows of 2024. Well, if you're new here, I'm John.
And I'm David.
And I'm Alicia.
And for some reason, your first podcast is a roundup of the year with us.
Hey, it's a good place to start.
That's true. You can get a pretty wide swath of our taste, of our opinions, of our wrongness about things. It'll be great. It'll be great.
I feel genuinely stressed about the fact that I, for instance, I've started the shows of From and Hacks, but have not watched the newest season, so they're not on my list. And for some reason, I'm feeling stress about that at the moment. So I just want people to know that I love those shows, season 1, and I'm sure they're great, season 3.
Somehow I don't think that any network is listening to this podcast going, I wonder if I should renew this show. Oh, well, David or John or Alicia decided it's on their top 10, so we're going to renew it. The
people must know that I have taste.
It's all about taste. But before we get into our rankings, because we didn't have a normal 11sies this month, let's talk about January.
Oh, can we also just half step back about tradition? Yeah. I guess we can do that. We'll do the January 11sies picks, and then we'll talk a little bit about the setup for this show.
Then I'll give you your Tevier moment.
Thank you.
Alicia, why don't you walk us through, because you're the January picker.
All right. Yes, I'm the January picker. It's my birthday month, so we're back to the essential Alicia list, but I've switched a few up. So I've presented 11 options, and the guys have gotten a chance to take a look, but just so listeners are get a measure of what the options are.
It's a very nice looking list. You laid out everything very well. I almost feel like we have to share it just on that basis.
Thank you. I do enjoy layout.
It was complete. I feel your completionist qualities coming through.
I made all the posters line up together and with the text.
They are beautiful from a graphic design standpoint.
So the 11 options are, I wrote little taglines for each. We've got Clueless from 1995, the classic 90s take on Jane Austen's Emma that taught microgeneration Zennial how to dress and speak. Stir of Echoes, 1999, when skeptical Tom's sister-in-law implants the prompt to open his mind during a hypnotism, it has unintended consequences as Tom begins to see a ghost haunting his house, trying to get his attention. Everything Everywhere All at Once, 2022. A middle-aged business owner who has been struggling to connect with her family experiences fractured identities, all the infinite possibilities for her life during a tax audit. Office Space, 1999. Peter will try anything to make his computer programming job more bearable, and maybe hypnosis, a waitress with just enough pieces of flair, and an epic 90s soundtrack are exactly what he needs. And I noticed, by the way, that I've 2 movies with hypnosis as like the central plot point.
What are you trying to do here, Alicia?
Yeah. Look into the swirling light. No. Clue, 1985. Based on the popular board game and set during the 1950s, an assortment of eccentric guests called to a mysterious mansion retreat find themselves investigating a murder and trying not to become the next victim themselves. The Last Unicorn, 1982. In this deeply moving Rankin-Bass production, animated by the studio that would eventually form the core of Ghibli, a unicorn who learns she is the last of her kind teams up with a hapless wizard and a woman worried she is past her prime to find others like her. Saving Grace, 2000. A desperate widow in debt, in danger of losing her English seaside family home, turns to growing weed with the help of her Scottish stoner gardener. Mayhem ensues. And we're on 8 now, Y Tu Mamá También, 2001, the film that put Diego Luna, Gael García Bernal, and Alfonso Cuarón on the map about 2 young friends going on one last road trip before college with a mysterious older woman and the truths they confront about themselves along the way. Number 9, Zoolander, 2001. This movie is really, really ridiculously good looking. Number 10, Mars Express, 2024. Like Blade Runner meets AI meets Scavenger's Reign, this animated film has something for everyone, from philosophy to action to weird life forms. It's one of only 2 films from 2024 I have given a perfect 5 stars. And the other one's Dune, in case anyone's wondering. And the final one, Breakfast at Tiffany's, 1961. When Paul, a struggling writer, meets Holly, an eccentric young socialite, his life is blessed with a lot more drama, new corners of New York City, and Cat the Cat. All right, David, you said you think you know what your choice is?
Yeah, it was a pretty tough list, and there's a couple of past titles that I have picked before, and so that sort of caused me a little confusion. It's like, oh, should I go back and pick one of those? But I just going on gut, and I haven't seen it in a long time, and it's outside of our typical genre picks for like sci-fi and weird stuff and all that kind of thing. I want to go with Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Okay.
Wow.
A classic film.
Wow.
That set a generation expectations of a bunch of different things, and it would be interesting to examine it again and enjoy the joie de vivre that is Audrey Hepburn.
We just got a call back to it in episode 3 of Silo. Audrey Hepburn singing Moon.
Oh, nice.
River.
Oh,
yeah.
David, as
I surprise
Alicia
you.
was reading this list, I was thinking to myself, I would watch Breakfast at Tiffany's. I've never seen it.
Okay.
But I don't want to touch podcasting about that with a 10-foot pole. My God, there's minefields.
We will acknowledge up front what the controversies are. I think there's only really one super offensive thing from my perspective.
Huh. I'm curious. Now I'm even more curious as to what those controversies may be. Don't say. Save it for the podcast.
All right. I don't think you've watched it in a while. I've seen the clips.
Haven't.
The clips is what I've seen, and I'm like, oh my God.
Well, I mean, besides, gender norms at the time. Right?
Well,
Right. Well, no, I'm thinking more about the neighbor. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm referring to as well. All right.
You know more than I do, John.
That's funny. That's funny. Just from TikTok, which is going away anyway. So.
And where will children get their film education then?
That's true. That's true. You know what? Take that, Supreme Court. All right. I'm going to choose The Last Unicorn because
Nice.
I put on the Rankin Bass Hobbit for my kids the other day for the first time.
Very
and
cool.
They loved it. And I felt very warm in my heart that they loved the same Hobbit movie I loved when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to keep on this Rankin Bass train.
I like it.
Okay.
I don't know if my child would be interested in some of those. We actually forced Emmett Otter's Jug Band onto the television last night, and she acquiesced and watched, and it seemed fine. But then I was surprised at how, I don't know, it was not at all what I was expecting from a Henson produced thing. But it's not a Henson story, so I think that's the important thing. But it's a very, very sweet spin on the Gift of the Magi story.
Yep.
All I can think of when I watch The Hobbit animated is they did this in an hour and 17 minutes. Peter Jackson. And yeah, they cut out a bunch, but you didn't need 3. Although I think that was the studio's decision. We don't have to relitigate that.
Okay, so for third pick, now I'm between 2. I'm between Everything Everywhere All at Once and Mars Express. But since you chose an animated film, maybe I'll go with Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I've never seen it and I've wanted to see it, so I'm glad you picked it. All right.
Now we just have to see if the listeners pick it.
Yeah, well, we'll see. So the final 3 are Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Last Unicorn, and Breakfast at Tiffany's.
And we know that we're prohibited from watching anything unless the listeners vote for it.
Yes, you can still watch Everything Everywhere, John.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. All right. Well, Alicia, thank you for a lovely list. I think that was a fun little pick session. And it's our own draft. It's our own Properly Howard moment. And now it's time for the Thunderdome. Get out your air horns because we need to get into the top 10 TV of 2024. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the process here. So we are going to go round and round we go. We're going to go David, Alicia, John, just from 10 to 1. We're going to do our bonus categories first, I think. But then we're going to go from 10 to 1. And I'm going to intersperse the community rankings. Now, the community rankings were done like this. every vote counted. So this is not your general U.S. election where, if your candidate doesn't win, you don't get anything. This is ranked choice voting, people. We're modernizing things. And this was an idea.
Practicing democracy.
That's true. So this was an idea. I don't remember who, but a bunch of people helped us last year with the top 10 calculations. And Gregsaw is helping us out again this year, and a few other people volunteered, and I appreciate that. Just to use a point system rather than just having the number ones count. And so what I've done is I cleaned up everything so that the titles all matched, and I could actually do pivot tables and whatnot. I assigned, so if you ranked it 10, it got 1 point, 9, it got 2 points, etc. Until you got to 1, it gets 10 points. So that way, the higher you ranked it, the more points you were able to give that show. And so it should reflect accurately how the community felt. And so we've got our top 10 for the community, we've got our top 10 for the three of us, and then we've got our bonus categories. So why don't we start with our bonus categories? And before we start, I want to say, if my voice doesn't go too high today, it's because I'm still getting over a sickness a little bit. This podcast brought to you by Dayquil, and we are getting through this as best we can.
You dropped like 18 octaves when you were like the other week. It was pretty wild to hear that. You made a little sample recording. You should release that to the patrons.
You know what? I'll put it right here. Here's my Darth Vader impression. You don't know the power of the dark side.
Yeah, I think we should, I'm sure there's some voice work for James Earl Jones, to backfill some of his stuff. So
that's right. We should just send that right over to George Lucas. I guess not George, but Dave Filoni.
Oh, so we should also mention, too, to be on the lookout for the top 3, the conversations that we have with our affiliates.
Yes. So we're going to do that in a separate episode. That's going to be Second Breakfast Part 2, and that'll come out the day after this.
Right, Boxing Day.
Yes, Boxing Day. This comes out on Christmas. Boxing Day will be the top 3 with the affiliates and the Istari. All right, so let's start with our bonus categories. Our bonus categories are, of course, let's start with our biggest misses, which I'm changing right now. David?
You're changing. I'm
changing it. I'm not even going to write it because it's going
to. All right, mine is Black Doves. I had a really hard time picking my biggest miss this year. As I was going through all different lists and our show tracker and what other people were pulling out, I couldn't figure out a biggest miss for me. That wasn't something that they crammed into this last month. I've seen one episode of this. People keep talking about it, and some of the production values of the first episode were pretty questionable in a couple of spots. But the story seemed a little intriguing. It has to do with sort of secret spy, fake secret spy, assassin, John Wick, Mr. and Mrs. Smith kind of stuff. But it was interesting enough that I feel badly that it got jammed into December when it should have been something. It could have been a fun summer hit or a mid-fall sort of palate cleanser, such as it is. I don't know that a palate cleanser is the right thing, but some other interstitial space. And I really feel like it's a big miss. And I don't know why they crammed it into the end of the month, because it seems like there's 3 or 4 things that they've just shoveled into December.
Right.
So, always frustrating.
Yeah. Like someone just brought up 100 Years of Solitude. I was like, oh yeah, I knew that was coming, but
that's
I didn't
happening.
They just binge dropped it apparently.
What? And what? Netflix?
I guess. Yeah. I guess it's on Netflix. But it's like how this is one of the most seminal stories, of literature. How can they just drop it like that in December?
That's wild. Yeah, I had no idea that was even happening.
Apparently, it's good, but yeah, definitely haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, it's a weird December. Everybody's got December.
Yeah, Netflix. 6 episodes.
Interesting. I gotta watch that. Although I haven't actually read the book yet. It's been on my bookshelf for a long time.
So speaking of December drops, should we mention The Rule and the award for the show that most violated the rules, so people are not surprised unpleasantly?
Yeah, so the rule that I instituted in my draconian rule is that the show has to have ended in 2024, because I think you can't judge a show fairly until it is done, because an ending matters. I've been saying that since Ahsoka.
Wait for the whole draft.
For this whole thing, yeah.
Right. Okay. It's got it. So the end date has to be in 2024. Oh, where did you post that? I didn't see that.
It's in the form. It's in the Google form. It's in the instructions in the chat. It's everywhere, David. And
you took it over this year, so like I wasn't plugged in like I was last year. So
that's true. So
is this our third top 10 that we've done?
This is our third top 10. Yeah.
Right. And so we're our culture around it is still evolving.
Yeah.
But you took it on this year, which is a big help because we've been busy on Dune.
Happy to do it. I like doing pivot tables in Excel.
Yes.
So I will announce that there was a show that dominated those who didn't read the rules, and that was Silo. Silo wins the I didn't read the rules award.
So it's not on my list for that reason, and also Skeleton Crew would probably be on my list, and so I already have a list starting for 2025 with those and Creature Commandos and all this other stuff. So
and in second place on that award was Blue Eye Samurai, which really didn't at all touch 2024, which was funny. That was in there too.
That was a big miss for 2024, wasn't it?
For 2023, yeah.
We need to compile all these somewhere in a single place.
Yeah. All right. So the community. Well, I didn't give my biggest miss, did I?
Nor did I. But I already said mine.
Man, I am all out of order here.
Sorry,
John. Drink some coffee.
Yeah. Well, I don't drink coffee anymore, David. I've had to give it up. I drink tea now. I'm a sophisticated man.
Oh my God. I feel like doing the Ted Lasso, spitting it out.
So I already said mine though. It's From and Hacks. And I'm not choosing between them. Sorry.
What's From?
From it's a horror show about these people arrive in this town and they can't exit it, and it's fine during the day, but at night these monsters come out. So they have this whole ritual system about hiding from them, but also trying to figure out what's going on and how to get out of there.
Interesting.
Nice.
Didn't even know that it was a thing.
Oh, it's on season 3, and apparently season 3 was quite good. There was some chatter on the Discord about it, but I'm still on season 1. I just finished season 1.
Cool. Nice.
And what was your other one? Oh yeah, Hacks. Hacks is definitely. So it was a big miss, right? Because you just said that you haven't caught up to it. Right. It was good. It's interesting. It's season 4 is going to be a big pivot, character wise. It's like, wow, which I think is something I appreciate in these reoccurring comedy shows, is that it's like same with Only Murders. What's your shtick? Each year you've got to invent and iterate, as to what you're going to do to keep people's attentions. Otherwise it just gets cookie cutter. Mm-hmm. And I have to say the end of season 3 of Hacks really sets up a season 4 that is going to be very tonally different. And that's good because they're pushing the storyline. So I appreciate what they're doing on Hacks. My wife and I really enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I like. Yeah, I'm interested. I'm intrigued by the characters, but I'm still in season 1. So,
yeah, it's good. It goes places. It's good.
Nice. Well,
John,
my biggest miss was Shrinking. I think
1 or 2.
I've not watched any of it.
Okay.
Well, I watched like 1 or 2 episodes of it, and when it first came out, and I was like, oh, I got to finish watching this, and I think we just got busy with different shows on the podcast. And I've just heard that season 2 has been so good, and I love all the actors in it. I really love the premise. I cannot wait to finish it. I just need to go back and do it. I think that's going to be my binge over. I'm taking some time off from work for the holidays. I think I want to do the holiday binge with it.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's a good category, holiday binge.
Yeah, we should have done that. We still could. What's your holiday binge?
Write it here.
I don't get to binge over the holidays because I'm with my family, and that's when I'm the most like I have to be present,
Oh, right, yeah.
But I'll
travel
sneak in.
Come back and
but also we have like activities organized and spending time and things we can watch together. Yeah.
Well, that sounds like something to your house for Christmas.
Maybe our holiday watch, like maybe in January we can cycle through like any binges or special movies that we caught up on with family, etc. So wow, that was a deafening silence.
So, all right. So let's go to the community biggest miss. That was Pachinko. Pachinko. This was actually a pretty diverse
Pachinko.
list. This was not like a clear winner. This was just barely 2 votes ahead was Pachinko over Hacks and Shrinking with 2 votes. So, yeah, a lot of diverse answers for this one, but Pachinko came out ahead.
Yeah, for the bonus questions, it's really hard to. There's generally no consensus. It's really all over the place. So,
and because it's one answer, you can't really rank it. It's just whoever picked what.
Yep.
But Pachinko, and I gotta watch that too. I would like to catch up on Pachinko. You all talk it up very much. I've listened to some of your spoiler-free stuff.
We have 3 full episodes on it. Let's do a one-shot on.
Yeah, well, color me shocked. David, bring us your guilty pleasure.
My guilty pleasure for this year is pretty anodyne. It is Top Chef. Right. It's nothing that is earth-shattering. Last year, I believe it was 100-Foot Wave, which is a ridiculous show, but beautifully shot and put together as a kind of quasi-documentary reality show. But Top Chef is back with a new host with Kristen since Padma has left. My wife has been a big fan of Top Chef for many, many, many years. And so when we got together, she roped me into it. And so now I'm into it. And so this year was like a big change with Padma retiring. And I thought they did a good job. There was a question of the quality of cooking with the group of chefs that they had this year. But given the major shift that they had, I thought they pulled the show off credibly and they did a good job with it. And it's something that I unabashedly enjoy watching. And I don't think I would ever rank it as a top 10 finalist show. But it is a solid. It is the. I was going to try and come up with a food metaphor, but I can't think of one. But it's just a staple in our house. So whenever it comes on, and our daughter is even kind of getting into it a little bit. So nice. Yes, happy to see Top Chef thriving with Kristen. I think she's doing a great job. So
very cool, very cool. It's tough when they have to do a shift. That's really tough because those shows really hang on the judges.
Yeah,
and the hosts.
Yep. There's the energy, the dynamic, what you're used to. Because part of that, the appeal of those kinds of shows is the cookie cutter nature, that there's a similarity to them and a repetition to them. And so changing, and Padma was such a iconic person in that, and so to shift her energy and shift the host dynamic is a really big deal. And I think they picked the right person, and Kristen's doing a really good job. It's a hard thing to do, and I give them a lot of credit.
Very nice. Alicia, what's your guilty pleasure?
I'm going with The Circle season 6. It is, and I want to point out that it is not The Circle season 7, because after The Circle season 6, I really enjoyed. They did 2 seasons this year. After The Circle season 7, I fooled myself into thinking that I will not watch the show anymore because I'm so sick of their shtick where it's like only we have to have young, vapid people who are mean to each other. And that's not, The Circle started as the opposite of that, where it's just like diverse people, sometimes even with pets in the British version, who, actually, no, they've started incorporating pets again, but it was about like warmth and forming alliances with strangers and stuff. And now it's just about like, what's the meanest twist we can come up with? But anyway, The Circle season 6 was the last that I really enjoyed. Nice.
Well, now I know who wrote that in my chart.
I have never heard of this show in my life.
You've never heard of The Circle?
Never.
It's okay. It's on Netflix, and it's basically, is it from the same? No, I don't know which company does it. But anyway, the idea is they have people in these different apartments in the same building, but they don't see each other. They are interacting through a social media interface, and they set up profiles. And so some of them set up profiles of them themselves. Some of them will be like themselves with a slight tweak. Some of them will pretend to be somebody completely different. And then they rank each other as they go through, and they have influencers who get to vote out the people at the bottom. So it's sort of a Survivor format, but with social media.
Oh my God. I can see why this falls into this category.
That's fun.
But it's really addicting. Except for the last season, I struggled with that.
Well, I'm glad you had fun with it, Alicia. I can't promise I'm going to watch that, but I'm glad that you're having fun.
You don't need to. It's probably best they don't get the encouragement to continue down the track they're going.
Fair enough.
Is it largely one of these shows that's replicated internationally from a standard format, or is it a international?
So it actually started as a British show, and it was filmed in the UK for a long time. They've done other countries, I think, but mostly it's just been the US.
Okay,
but I guess
Okay.
No, I guess they have done. I forget now.
Well, I'm going to go to my British pleasure. Yeah, I was thinking British because the community guilty pleasure was Great British Baking Show or Bake Off, depending on your region.
The and GBBO ranks in one of our affiliate tops as well in their top 3. I won't spoil who or what position, but yeah, it's GBBO is getting some love out there.
I will say it just eked out one vote over From the Ark and The Legend of Vox Machina. So plenty of diverse answers on that too. My personal guilty pleasure was Curb Your Enthusiasm, the final season.
Well, that didn't actually rank on your top 10?
No, because it was stupid, but I loved it. It's pretty good.
I think you and Anthony should do a because that figured prominently in his end of year reflections.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and I think you and Anthony would have a good one shot on that.
I mean, it was excellent. It was really good for what it was. It's just like if it does not fit in on my list. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking at my list and I'm like, this does not fit in here. But
one
really,
of these things
really
is not
excellent.
Like the other.
Yeah, really, really excellent for this conclusion to the series. Richard Lewis died shortly before or like in the middle of the season. But he got to finish filming the season, and then during its run, he passed away, and it was very sad, but it was very meaningful. It just felt right. All the ending and having him and Larry have like arguments where they're going to each other. When are you going to die? Like it really, it felt fitting. It felt fitting as an end to the series. They did a bunch of homages to Seinfeld, and it was right. It was all right. So guilty pleasure. Loved it.
The Namaste meme part of Larry David at a yoga. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I think that was an earlier season, but yeah.
Yeah, it is an earlier season, but every once in a while that meme or that clip drifts through my social media feeds. And it's the one where he's leaving a yoga studio and the instructor's like, "Oh, Larry, I noticed you didn't say namaste." And then they get to this whole thing where he enrages the yoga studio owner or
he's really good at that
so much that she's just like, "Get the fuck out and never come back."
Yep.
And he's so good at just like, and he's like, "Oh, you just made my day. Thank you."
This is why I don't watch this show. That just makes my blood pressure rise.
I love it so much.
Super cringe.
All right, our last bonus category.
Yes.
David's trying to cheat. He has like 3 extra picks plus 2 honorable mentions.
I filled them in, so I'm on
Are
the
you kidding me?
train.
We're not doing top 13. No.
Yes, we are.
Playing by the rules.
13. I said in the Discord channel that I put those there simply because if questions come up, I need to remember where these particular shows ranked in my.
Is there a way I can lock these as unreachable for the rest of this podcast?
Right.
No, I'm going to read them out because now I put them on my list and change my honorable mentions accordingly.
All right.
Okay. Most anticipated Andor. No questions. No questions asked.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's fair, and that would be mine, but surprising no one, I'm going with the Wheel of Time.
All right. I get it.
Blue Sky of Time. Is that, I don't know, what do you...
Watts Skies.
Watts Skies? Okay. Well, Watts Skies is reveling for season 3, I see in my feeds.
Yes, absolutely.
They're adapting the best book in the series, in my opinion, or maybe second best book. It's like where the series really finds its own identity separate from being like kind of inspired by like the Lord of the Rings and similar stuff.
Okay.
And I was saying if I had more time, I would definitely do a David style breakdown of that teaser trailer because
you have time.
I mean, not this.
Not
Not
now.
this. Yeah, not right now.
No, in the new year. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, mine is Severance.
Okay.
I just have to feel the hype for it right now. It's right around the corner.
Mhm.
I think, you know,
Is it
Andor is
genuinely
great. The Wheel
your
of Time
favorite
is great.
show for that next year? Like most, it really is. Like you're not just.
It's my
not
most
a Regency
anticipated.
bias. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's because Andor and The Wheel of Time, I love them both, but I know where they're going.
Mhm.
I know generally where they're going. Severance, I have no idea what's happening.
Interesting.
And I
Okay.
want to know.
Yeah,
I
that's fair.
crave the knowledge. I hate not knowing. So that is my most anticipated.
And it's a mystery box, and you have opinions about mystery boxes.
Yes, and not all good ones, but it's the best mystery box there has been, I've seen.
Wow. Okay.
Now, the community agrees with David by a whopping 12 votes.
Yeah, I noted that. It was significant.
Which is double the next entry, which was Severance, and everything else only got one vote as their most anticipated.
Yeah, I think it's going to be I think it's going to get a lot of podcast coverage in the marketplace and a lot of YouTube videos, and yeah, it's going to be a busy show.
Well, we were there for season 1 when everyone had lost hope
exactly
about Star Wars shows. We showed up.
There were even other podcasters who were like, "Oh, well, maybe I should talk to you about that." We were like, yeah."
Yeah, you crazy people.
I never lost hope. I just want people to know. I think even the Book of Boba Fett had its moments.
Well, I think we are ready for the real deal, starting with number 10.
Oh, come on. I'm reading out 11 through 13.
All right, you can read it out, but we're having no lengthy explanations. This is not going to be a 4-hour podcast.
Okay. All right. So Hitmonkey just it was a show that was slow to pick up in the first season, but I'm all in on especially after season 2. Fallout, of course, was super fun. Can't wait for more. And I haven't gotten that far in this one, but so far Interior Chinatown is really inventive and fun, and I can't wait to see where it goes. So, but we also had our other honorary mentions.
Well, we can do honoraries at the end.
Okay.
That'll be last thing. I'll read out my 2 or 3. 13 is Dune, 12 is The Bear, and 11 is Agatha. And my number 10 is Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And all 3 of these could have replaced, like they've changed. Dune, I'm sorry, is falling through the floor. I know the show isn't over yet, but there's a lot that I love about it, but it is not holding for me relative to everything else that we've gotten this year so far. But Agatha, the Bear, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith all could have. They were like constantly changing places with each other, and I really enjoyed them all. But when I get down to it, when I think back about the vibes of what I was watching and what really made me like excited to watch the next episode and to see where the story was going to go, it was Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And the Danny Glover and Maya Erskine, their chemistry was so great. I loved the premise of kind of a quasi-romantic comedy, modern assessment of where relationships are, wrapped in the international assassin spy thing. I thought was great. I loved the groundedness that they each brought. Like they're very real. There were some early scenes where, if this had been a James Bond movie, like Danny Glover was running at one point and he gets winded, and it's like, well, James Bond would never get winded, and so I loved the groundedness that they brought to it. The acting was just lovely. Everybody just was.
Yeah. Did you say Danny Glover?
Did I say What did I say?
Did you say Danny Glover? Donald Glover.
Donald Glover. I did this when I was
I actually thought for a moment, I was like, was he in it? And then I go, wait.
I did the same thing on, I think it was when I was talking to Jean, or was I talking to Anthony? I can't remember. I was talking to somebody about our top 10. I did the same thing. Anyway, D. Glover. Yeah. And I would really love to see this as an anthology series. It was just so delightful. And every episode I was just on edge, just waiting to see where they were going to take this. Literally in the storyline and the character development and the character interactions, and then around the world, like where were they going to be next? And it was just, it was inventive, it was fresh, and Glover's comedy, he's not cringy, so that's what, but he pushes the boundaries of things and he makes you think about stuff. And I just thought it was a real triumph, a real masterpiece of this scale of television making. So yeah, solid. Now Agatha and the bear, this season, it's and Agatha was really great, and I just I couldn't put it higher, but it could have been number 10 easily. So
very nice, very nice.
It's definitely higher on my list.
Since everyone's cheated and changed the format, I've come up with 3 I can list for my 11 through 13 quickly.
Okay, good.
And then we'll go to Alicia's number 10.
Okay.
All right. House of the Dragon is my 11.
Okay.
I'm not putting it on my top 10. I cannot in good faith do that, and I'm going to address the controversy now. The show had a really strong start. It fell very flat. And it fell very flat because of studio interference, not letting them do 10 episodes, not letting them do what they wanted to do, it seems like. And then there were very confusing explanations, like, oh, we thought this was a good place to end it. It absolutely wasn't. The story felt very muddled at times. And while the production design was fantastic, I am primarily a story-driven guy when I podcast, and I am very into where's the story, where's the lore.
Right.
This season didn't do it for me. I thought it fell way flat compared to season 1. And I hope that they can bring it back for season 3. And I think they will. They have a lot of big moments. But I can't in good faith put it on my top 10 list this year.
It's not on my list either, and it wasn't in the 13 or honorable mentions either for the same reasons. So
fair enough. And then I'll just quickly say Frieren Beyond Journey's End was a really fantastic anime, and I loved it.
It's not on your list?
No, because I thought that I this is probably my fault. I thought it was a standalone series, and when it ended in an open-ended ending, I was like, oh no. I thought it was going to be a 1 season thing. It's come back for season 2, which I think it'll still be really good. It was great. But I'll let you talk about it at length if you get to. I'm assuming you're going to get to it now. And then lastly, Abbott Elementary. I think it's really bringing back the mockumentary as a staple of the comedy genre. Really fun.
Oh my God, that needs to be on my shoot. That should be on my honorable mentions too. Then.
Well, your honorable mentions.
You can't just list every show you watched this year, Alicia.
Listen, I watched a lot of shows this year. So
there you go. All right, Alicia, hit us with your top 10. Your number 10.
Okay, my number 10 is genuinely forgot what I put here. All right, Somebody Somewhere, which just finished its 3rd and final season, and it's one that's like I've brought it up before on Second Breakfast. It's a difficult one to recommend to people because it's like, what is it about? Like, well, it's about dealing with trauma and hanging out with your sister and best friend, but it's just so poignant and real, the situations that they deal with and how they grapple with their own shortcomings or traumas or things like that, and one thing I like about it, they just wrapped up the 3rd season, and in the very last episode, most of the characters are still struggling with some version of the same things they were struggling in the first episode, because that's how life works, but they've made progress. So at one point, just somebody shares a friendly wave with someone who used to bully them in high school. And that's just the perfect closure, that they've earned that moment. And it's that kind of show that just really, it's like hanging out with your friends and doing karaoke,
Nice.
I think with those kinds of shows too, it's important to get progress. If you don't feel as if you are progress, even if it's not forward progress, if it's lateral or backwards, but movement, like you need movement from where the character was to where they are now. And that's what keeps it interesting, right?
But it's the stakes and the progress are like, someone is finally ready to accept help from someone who loves them,
Right.
Which is, it's just so real. And it's lessons that we all are struggling with ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe their hearts are in
conflict with themselves. Faux show.
Oh boy. All right.
What about you?
My number 10 is X-Men 97.
Oh,
Nice. Good solid pick.
I
didn't watch
really,
it, but good solid pick from what I hear from everybody.
I just can't believe how well it tackled so many mature themes in this like random animated continuation of a 90s cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even watch the 90s cartoon. I started it briefly right after the series. I plan to go back to it. It's just time. But really great show. I love all the 90s animation. I love the homage to the 90s arcade video games that were in like Chuck E. Cheese and random like kids arcades. I just loved it. I loved everything about it. And I had probably more fun with this than most shows this year.
Yeah, super fun show. Didn't make my list, but it was in strong consideration.
Well, the community...
is it coming back?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's coming back for season 2. Which is kind of season 8, right? Is that what or season 9? I don't know. Because of the previous continuity.
Wait, what was it? There were 5 before? 5 seasons?
Oh, well, then I don't know.
Yeah, anyway.
I don't know. Somebody write it. The community, with 44 votes, chose another animated show, Arcane, the Netflix show based on League of Legends, the video game, which nobody thought was going to be good and ended up being apparently fantastic. Arcane season 2?
This should be on my biggest miss list because I have not watched season 2, but season 1 was fantastic. But season 2, I heard more, not controversy, but like more, people weren't as solid on it, it felt like.
Oh, really? I thought people liked it better from what I was hearing.
Oh, interesting.
It got more buzz this year for whatever reason. I mean, it definitely broke through to the point that the Radioactive Ramblings decided to cover it.
Sure. Yeah. But I think it was based off of the success of season 1. Season 1 was really came out of nowhere as a coup.
When did season 1 come out?
Like 3 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a while then. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So it took them a while. So this, I heard a passing reference that the average episode cost of this thing was between $12 and $15 million.
I think it's the most expensive animated series ever.
It's just wild to think about. Like, what are they doing?
It looks great. It looks great.
Yeah, I was like, oh, maybe I should at least just see what this is about.
Well, it's also the writing of season 1, at least. I can't speak to season 2, obviously, but season 1 writing is phenomenal. Just the nuance. It's about what does family mean and what does it mean to love someone and what should you sacrifice for someone and just, these minute misunderstandings that blow up into war. Yeah. And it's got I call her Harley Quinn 2.0.
Funny. I've never heard of this video game. It's
massive. And from what I've heard, everyone who plays it hates themselves for playing it. Huh. It's very competitive. It's one of those free to play, but you could spend $1 billion just microtransactioning forever.
Does it fit like a Fortnite niche or something?
No, it's a MOBA, from what I understand, which is all right. This
massively
is a bad
online
explanation. If somebody actually plays MOBAs, please just explain it better. But it's not an MMORPG. That's what you're thinking.
This is battle arena, right?
Yeah, you have like a set of heroes, and you're going up against other sets of heroes, and it's.
That sounds like doesn't Fortnite do that? Or what's the tank one?
Fortnite's more of a first-person shooter. But
you're a team and you're fighting against another team, right?
Yeah, but it's like top-down. It's a different vibe.
Okay.
It's a very different vibe.
Okay.
Fortnite is a first-person shooter, or a third-person shooter, rather. Why can't I... Battle Royale is what Fortnite is, and I don't think League of Legends does that. Maybe it does have a mode.
Okay.
But... David, we're splitting hairs here, but in the gaming world, if you say Fortnite is the same as League of Legends, somebody's gonna have pull their hair out. So that's why I'm trying to save you here.
Go to bed, Grandpa. They could just tell me to go to bed, and I'll be like, fine. I'll just sort of mutter to myself as I shuffle off.
I don't really know the difference because neither of these are. I'm definitely the RPG player.
Well, Ted Lasso and Seinfeld are the same because they're both comedies, right? You know what I mean? This is what I'm saying.
No, I know.
All right. So, David, give us your number 9.
Where it is my number 9. My number 9 is Rings of Power.
All right. Fair pick.
Solid entry, continues to, push itself. This and House of the Dragon and Dune, regardless of where their relative rankings are, all get a lot of credit from me in general, just for the fact that they're taking on the biggest IP titles that you could take on, right? With huge fandoms, complex stories, high demands on visual effects to make it, make the world building feel immersive. Like, oh, okay, you're really bringing these fantastical and environments to life. And so I can't not, give it some kind of nod. And I know I was hot and cold on the season. I even got called out on the Apple podcast.
Well, they'll call you out for anything. So
yeah, so fair enough. And I tried to like it, and there's a lot that I do like about it. And I just think it needs to, when I'm ranking it and thinking about what's beyond my personal enjoyment, but also sort of like what's important for television, I kind of feel like these big IPs. I mean, if you think about it, we've got Foundation, we've got Dune, we've got Tolkien, and we've got Martin all on screen. And Star Wars and Star Trek, those are these ongoing things. But at least with Dune and Foundation and Tolkien, those three have all, there's a reason why that they haven't been produced up until now. I mean, Tolkien has in various forms, but to serialize it as a television show, and I just think it's a pretty remarkable thing. So I could not go in good conscience on my top 10 without having Rings of Power in there somewhere.
We're getting a Martin show for every 2 years for the rest of our lives, David.
Mm-hmm.
HBO is not letting that cash cow walk away.
But Seven Kingdoms, I've been dying for an adaptation for that for ages, so I'm really excited that that's the next one.
I do love
Night
that
of the
book.
Seven Kingdoms.
Yeah, that compilation. Yeah,
right. Yeah, I read them as individual stories when they were first published, so now I'm going to reread them as I got the full book compilation. I don't know if they changed anything, but
there is an audiobook version of the trilogy read by the voice actor from Viserys in Game of Thrones, like the original, like Dany's brother Viserys.
Mm. Oh yeah, Abby was saying something about that apparently, because we were doing a fan casting on the Silo spoiler cast, and someone fan casted him as a character, and Abby was saying that apparently people are going nuts for his audiobooks.
He's really good. He's really, really great. So what's your number 10 and number 9, Alicia?
My number 9. Oh, by the way, I just want to say about Somebody Somewhere. I think I forgot to say that it's really funny. It's really about like silliness and like friends pooping together and stuff like that too. So I just want to not misrepresent it. But it's my number.
Well, now I'm in.
But it's also, I'm not usually into like poop humor, but like they're just so earnest and like I don't know. It's anyway.
Was it like real? It's like real talk.
Like real talk, yeah, but also just like sometimes someone's your best friend when you poop together on the phone, that sort of thing.
Yes, I suppose that would be a very intimate relationship of acceptance.
If you both have food poisoning.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, there you go.
But okay, so number 9 is less on the funny side, although it has its moments. Baby Reindeer. This was It was a limited series. It's about, for anyone who doesn't know, it's based on a true story about a comedian and kind of the horrible things that happened to him, the ways he was mistreated coming up. And it's just really engrossing and well written. And the casting was just phenomenal, especially for the character of Martha. I just really want to see her in more things now, the actress. So I really recommend it. It's definitely not always an easy watch, and, throwing content warnings out there in a general way. But it was very good, very well written.
Yeah, it got a lot of critical acclaim.
Did well.
I would have.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Did well at the Emmys.
Yeah, and I would almost put it, for me, I would put it in a bucket of like along with Beef. I didn't watch.
Beef is really good too.
Yeah, I started both of those and couldn't go for. They just weren't vibing with me. But the reaction by writers and other people within the industry and other storytellers and people who think critically about stuff, it's really a strong a strong positive reaction from a lot of people. For both shows, I should say.
Yeah.
Nice. And there's a season 2 coming, right?
For Baby Reindeer or Beef? Yeah, for Beef, yes.
For Beef, yes. I thought I heard Baby Reindeer was coming back as well.
Not that I've heard of. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. There's a lot of controversy, by the way, because the woman that Martha's based on stepped out and said, like, this is based on me. Like, well, now you've told everyone. But yeah,
yikes.
So there's
yikes. Sometimes
what about you,
just got to be quiet. I don't remember what I put, so let's. The Acolyte. The Acolyte I put as my number 9.
Wow.
You're saying wow that it's on there? Because it's definitely higher than mine.
Well, I thought it was great. I thought it was great. And I thought it was unjustly canceled, and I was not going to let it not be on my list because it created a lot of potential in the High Republic era. I loved seeing the High Republic finally on screen. I do wish they had differentiated it a little bit more visually, but really, really great stuff. I thought Amandla did a really amazing job playing the twins. I really loved, I can't remember the name of Master Soul, the actor.
Lee Jung-jae. Okay,
yes, thank you. Well, he did an amazing job. The fights between him and Manny Jacinta were just incredible. I think the nighttime fight scene was perhaps the best lightsaber battle I've seen since episode 3, since the Anakin v. Obi-Wan duel. And I just wish it had gotten another chance. There were nitpicks I could do, but overall, the show kept me immersed. It made me feel like it was an interesting Star Wars story, and it dove deeper into the Star Wars lore. We even got a Plagueis tease, and now we're going to just shut that down. I mean, come on. I think it's great. It deserves a spot on the list.
Yeah.
I will be gushing about it more later.
Fair enough. We'll save it then. We'll give the community number 9, which was Interview with the Vampire, coming in with 50 points. These were all pretty close to these. It's all very close. It's all just a few points separated until you get to number 1 and 2, and then it's separated by over 100 points.
Yeah,
I think this should be higher, but more people need to watch it.
Yeah, I think that's really it. Is it's not that watched.
And
in fact, Mayfair Witches was more popular than it, which is insane to me.
And you had a pretty fun interaction and hopefully some future crossover stuff with another podcast
with Christina from Vampire Insider.
Vampire Insider, that's right. I couldn't remember the title. So
they do really in-depth coverage of Interview with the Vampire and Mayfair Witches, which they feel the same about as John and I.
After I hate watched Mayfair Witches, I had to go back and listen to their podcast to make sure that I wasn't crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun.
Listening to you and Christina talk, it was really enjoyable. That was a fun podcast.
Yeah, and I'm obviously going to be gushing about this one further up the list as well.
Yeah.
All right, David, bring us to number 8.
My number 8 is Only Murders.
Very nice.
What is it, season 4? It's a weird pick for me to throw it this high, but I can't do it without recognizing that the show is getting stronger season after season after season. And it's a little bit what I talked about before, which is you got to reinvent the shtick. It's like, well, how many more murders can they have in the Arconia, right? How can you do this over and over and over again? It's a little bit ridiculous. And yet somehow they're able to reinvent the show each season, find a new centralized theme to work in and around. I love the fact that it's becoming a kind of a cameo machine. Now, no, there was one performance this season that it was pretty bad from the cameo standpoint. But at least that the character was somewhat determinative for the plot, but it was fine. I don't know.
Is this about a bad accent?
Yes, a very bad accent. Very, very bad accent. Worse than Dick Van Dyke in the original Mary Poppins, which we watched recently with our daughter, and she's very into supercalifragilisticexpialidocious right now. And anyway, that said, I just have a lot of respect, and for Martin and Shore and Gomez to find this, these two iconic actors from my that I grew up with and watched their careers, to find this late stage resurgence, and then somebody who's not a primarily known as a comedic actor, to the chemistry between the three of them is great. And I just think they're building something that's really fun and lovely and consistent in quality, but yet innovative in the comedy style and the topics that they're, the setup, the mystery and the setup that they're doing. They really have nailed it, and I just appreciate everything that they're putting into it. And I don't know how long they're going to run. We'll see. But if the magic that they've discovered, if they can hold on to that and keep it going, I think this is just going to be it's just going to keep growing. I think it's a very cool show.
Nice. I got to catch up on that. I didn't even watch season 3.
I still have to finish the last 2 episodes of the new season. That's a good reminder.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for bringing that to our attention, David.
Indeed.
Alicia?
All right. So what are we on? Number 8 is Frieren. And I have to say, I have not, it probably would be higher maybe if I had finished the season. So I'm putting this and the next one above it are both ones that I am in the middle of the season, but I just am so into them. This is completely, I mean, I knew people were like, oh, it's like a D&D thing, but different. I'm like, okay. And so I go in, and then you really see like the first episode just subverts your expectations so much. So minor spoiler for the first episode, but then it starts with them coming back from a journey, after Journey's End is the subtitle. And then suddenly, you have this character who's an elf who doesn't age, and time is just like slipping by where her friends are aging and dying. And this is where it begins. And you're like, whoa, where is it going to go from here? And it's just every episode is sort of like a meditation on humanity in a way. I don't know if you want to add anything, John.
I can see why I ranked it lower than you.
I like that she just bypassed me and went straight to you.
Did you watch it? Did you watch it?
No. That's why. You knew I didn't watch it. So.
Right.
Well, you were also like shaking your head the entire time she's talking. So
I've never heard of it. I think I have heard of it once. Maybe.
I've been trying to convince Marilyn to watch it because it is essentially, what if the Fellowship of the Ring was successful and disbanded, and then Legolas, like 100 years later, is like, did that mean something in my life? I'm immortal. It's like Legolas musing on his meaning in life, but this is Frieren, an elvish mage, trying to figure out like, what did those 10 years of journeying with my fellowship mean?
Yeah. And you said you could see why I had it ranked higher. Why is that?
Yes, because I think that the last third of the season stalls out on momentum.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you think that actually it would be lower if I had finished the season?
I do think it would be lower.
And this is why I broke your rule.
You did break my rule, but it's okay. Well, you didn't break my rule. You don't have to finish it, but I do think.
Is it out?
It's all out. Yeah. If it's out, then it's fair. It actually started in 2023 and finished in 2024.
Yep. And look, it's still really great, and that's why I wanted to mention it. And I think season 2 has the potential to be really great too. I think they had something that they wanted to get through, and it felt like they did a lot of exposition and setup for season 2 in the last third. That just the momentum of where I felt we were going was just really, really stalled out. So that's why I didn't rank it.
Okay. So what is your number 8?
Well, question about Frieren. Relative to Frieren is, has anybody watched Vox Machinas?
No.
Yes. I still haven't finished the season. I'm in the middle of it. I enjoy it. But for me, Frieren has more depth. And
Okay.
I have friends that will disown me for admitting
yes, I know that.
I know people who are really into, and I think
Yes.
it also helps the people who have watched. So Vox Machina is based on these campaigns that you can watch online by a group called Critical Role.
Yep.
And the people who have watched all the campaigns and stuff are super into it. And I definitely intend to do that, but they're also really a lot and long. So
because you're watching live play D&D with professional
Right.
actors, but still there's a lot of that stuff that just is like, oof, it's a slog to get through. I'm just curious because
people love it. I think it's good. It's just a lot of time that you have to dedicate to doing it, even on double speed.
I'm just looking at a couple of clips online of Freerin, and it seems very D&D to me, which, I'm a D&D player, so I enjoy it. But I can see that's what it would be like to cast that particular spell and to fight that particular golem or what have you. It seems
well, David, there's literally an episode where they're like, we need a warrior.
Cool.
Yeah. So anyway, my number 8, again, I've forgotten what I wrote on most of this because I didn't change it in a while. It was Fallout. A pleasant surprise. I enjoyed Fallout quite a bit. I went in with very low expectations, as I am someone who doesn't really like the Fallout games. I've played them. I've really tried to get into them, and I love the Elder Scrolls games, which is made by the same company, same play style, kind of. There's just something about the vibe of it that I've never been like, I just don't like this play style and whatnot. And then the show comes out, and it felt so fresh. It felt like such a really cool take on the universe. And I felt like the world building was great. I can never remember the names of these actors and things. Who was the lead?
Scroggins.
Ella Purnell.
Oh, her. Wow. Right.
Ella Purnell. He wasn't the lead.
He was not the lead. I was fishing for names. That's all.
Walter
that's all.
Goggins? Is that his
He was
name?
great too. But Ella Purnell needed to sell this as she could have overdone the whole I'm goofy, naive thing, but she did it just the right amount. Having her become tough while still saying okie dokie was so funny and so totally disjunct in the best way. Yeah. I loved it.
Shout out for Yellow Jackets in terms of shows I'm anticipating for 2025. She's
I always slip in another one.
Yeah, right.
Listen,
at least she's just going to name every show.
If we had more time, I would make us at least maybe we should do a one shot on Yellow Jackets. Anyway,
I haven't caught up.
Deafening silence.
I have very little interest in that. I'm going to be honest with you. But if you want to find a co-host, then you do that.
By all means, by all means. I think does Jean I can't remember. I know somebody out there likes one of our. John, it looks like you are in concordance with the community.
Sure am.
Fallout.
The community is right with me. And number 8, Fallout, that got 63 points. 63 points. Wait. We didn't give the number 9 for the community, did we?
Yeah, we did. Interview with the Vampire.
Oh, we did. I'm sorry. Yeah. Number 9 with 63 points. Interview with the Vampire had 50 points. I think that's what I didn't give, is the number of points it got. Not that anybody probably cares at home, but I care.
According to the media strategy guy, or whatever his name is, I posted this on our top 10 channel on the Discord. Fallout was for streaming, within the streaming ecosystem, within the American market, Fallout was extremely successful for a brand new property. For a season 1, it did extraordinarily well. I think it was his number 2 top. And this is data analytics, what data that can he extract and pull out from all these different sources. And as far as he could tell, that's sort of the number 2. Bridgerton was the number 1 streaming show apparently, but Fallout was really popular for. In the streaming market. So much so that I think with Radioactive Ramblings, their downloads for their episodes were really high because there was not a lot of podcast coverage for it. So good job, guys, on that, by the way.
Yeah, Fallout had the benefit of having a built-in audience it's a very popular game. It's just a really popular game that's been around for decades now. And, I do think that when you're talking about IP crossover, I think more gamers are watching a lot of TV than book readers are watching a lot of TV, right? And so, overall and community levels, I know that we all read books and we all, all that. So I think that getting those people to turn on their TV to watch another Fallout story, plus you had Todd Howard, the head of Bethesda, saying, "Oh, well, we're treating this as Fallout 5. This is just another game entry as far as the story goes." I think that helped a lot. I really do think that helped a lot.
Cool.
David, give us your number 7.
My number 7 is True Detective Night Country.
I'm shocked. I buried this show.
You say what?
I said I buried this show.
Yeah, you did, and that did factor when in part of my internal monologue when I was doing this. A quick side note on my process this year. The last couple of years, I tried to be very methodical, and I've set up a ranking system for industry score and entertainment value and tier or sort of category. And you, John, threw out a thing that we're going to try to give this year a kind of a moniker or some sort of description of what the vibe was.
Yeah, brand.
Yeah, and so back to the note on process, I'd been throwing titles into my list of shows, and then I was looking at that just going, oh my God. And this goes into the brand for the year. It's just this was a very chaotic year television wise for me, the way that I was reacting to television. I was having a really hard time sifting and sorting through things and what have you. And so I just sort of collected up a whole bunch of titles, jammed them into this format, and then started, going through and ranking them. I really enjoyed this show on a vibe level. I liked the mystery. I loved Jodie Foster's performance. I loved the extension of the brand. And I know, towards the end, maybe, it's hard with a mystery box, to bring everything to a conclusion in your set number of episodes. It was shaky, but credible. I thought Issa Lopez did a great job. I'm looking forward to seeing more from her. Visually, this show was, I just really appreciated the idea of setting it in Night Country, as it were. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And it's really a lot on vibes that it ranks this high. So
David, I'm genuinely glad that you ranked it. I think that it just was not a show for me, and I hope people feel represented now. I hope people feel heard.
I will watch that one day, I promise.
And in defense of it, I loved the last episode. I thought it was other than the ending where she was just like, well, this is what happened, and I'm going to tell you everything. Just sit down with the FBI and tell them everything. I really loved the way that it resolved. A very meaningful moment when everybody comes together. I don't want to spoil it, and it's funny because I think that was one of the least popular moments of the season overall for people, and so that's when I knew that the show wasn't for me. Is that I liked the things people didn't like, and I liked most of it. But yeah, I think it had a lot of. Jodie Foster and Callie Reese.
Yeah, she was great.
They were both really great. I thought that their back and forth was the best part about the show.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I just wish the show had a little bit stronger writing. I think that's really what it was for me. And I for me, a show lives or dies on the writing.
I'm a sucker for this genre too, the noir and the hard bitten. And I thought Jodie Foster's Hard Bitten was perfect. It's actually interesting because this is both noir and hard bitten, because she's hard bitten and Callie Reese is noir in the sense of discovering something, suddenly encountering a world that's always been there, but the protagonist is unaware of, and suddenly falling into this. I thought I knew the rules. Now I don't. Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting mix of genre, and then bringing in the sort of cosmic horror stuff as well. I liked it. So
yeah. Alicia, what's your number 7?
My number 7. So this is the other one that I haven't finished because I just started it very, very recently, as sort of the panic last minute, the shows that I wanted to watch and didn't, and I should do it right now. So it's Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and I
very high for a not finished show.
I'm like halfway through and just immediately captivated from, where I've been supposed to be watching Christmas movies and other stuff. But I keep sneaking in episodes of it because I keep thinking about it and just everything that you said, David, when you talked about it, but also, I love both of the actors, Maya Erskine and Donald Glover. I almost said Danny.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was like, wait, is it Danny or Donald?
I had it stuck in my head from you saying it. But I love Donald Glover in general from Community and his music. And can't wait for Lando. But anyway, yeah, this just the specificity of human intricacies. This is sort of, I realize, what I'm drawn to, especially in, I love good rich character writing like that. And just the complexity of their situation, and the action is almost incidental, but then it becomes more exciting that way because like they are in a situation that seems normal and then suddenly you're like, oh
yes.
shit.
It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good that way. And when they do it internationally as well, you're just like, wait a minute, what? Where are we? What's going on? It's so good.
And what about you, John?
I have to, again, I don't remember any of these. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, actually.
Hey, look at that.
That's funny.
I feel bad for ranking it so low.
I did genuinely finish the whole thing, and I finished it late. I finished it after, David, you did the one shot with Ron.
Yep, that was a fun podcast.
Really, and I did listen to it afterwards. Excellent podcast. But it was, like Alicia was saying, it's really unique. It feels like it touches on so many like true relationship stereotypes, tropes, real experiences, while also being like a ridiculous spy thriller. And that's so impressive. I was just so impressed with it. And what's impressive is it takes a movie that was so unserious and so like memed out. And we all had no expectations for this because of it. And it just takes that brand, it takes that label, it takes kind of the premise, and it turns it into a real in-depth character drama and comedy too. Like it's funny too.
Yeah.
I'm often like laughing out loud as they're like shooting people and going through these like crazy high risk things. Really, really funny show and really beautiful ending and everything. I enjoyed it front to back. There was not a bad episode in it.
I love the ending. I want to touch on that really quickly, but I think it was interesting listening to people, in the media, other reviewers and other podcasts and stuff relate to the show as like, oh, the original movie with Pitt and Jolie. I'm like, this has, and I'm not a fan of that movie. And so when I was coming to this because of Glover. It just seemed so incongruous to compare this to its progenitor in title, other than the basic setup of a man-woman assassin team kind of thing. So it's hard to compare it for me. But I love the ending. I just absolutely adore the ambiguity of the ending. It's so good. No spoilers.
Do you think they're going to do season 2?
There was chatter about it and it rolling into a sort of anthological, can you say that? Anthology style thing where you would have different protagonists. Yeah. And then that would give opportunity for other characters to roll back in at key moments to give you that real zow and wow factor. So fingers crossed.
My first gut instinct with that is I don't want them to, but then I'm like, but I didn't want them to do this, and this was amazing. So maybe I should just trust the process.
Yeah. Trust Glover.
Especially if it's an anthology that gives them room to do different things.
Yep.
Keep experimenting with the form.
Right. Well, let's hear from the community here. We've got Pachinko coming in with 65 points, only 2 points ahead of Fallout.
But it's also the biggest miss, so you've got to imagine
that's
if
interesting.
More people were able to watch it, it would be higher.
That's true. Probably would have done better.
Hey, when you finally get around to watching it, dear listener, we have 3 podcasts
breaking down the first 2 seasons. And you can listen to the first one after season 1 because that's only about season 1. And then the second and third are about season 2.
And then with Nate's insights into the historicity of it and how the showrunners folded in the history so seamlessly into the storyline so that when you then uncover that, you're like, whoa, it's chef's kiss. Really great stuff.
Very nice. David, give us your number 6.
Me, number 6 is... I'm conflicted about my number 6. I struggled with this. I kind of couldn't remember where or what my feelings were during the season. It's House of the Dragon. Mm-hmm. If somebody wanted to like argue with me and shake me out of my senses a little bit, relative, especially what you said, John. But at the same time, I can't not rank it in some ways because, again, from an industry standpoint, it's an important show. It's an important IP. The acting, all of the performances that were delivered were so good in so many cases. And I don't know. I guess it's my weakest, where does this go? Even though it's got to go on here somewhere. It's still a prestige drama. It's still a gorgeous show. It's still tons of production value that is very, 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 very good. And I have to give a lot of credit to a lot of great actors who really delivered some potent and powerful performances. So I guess maybe that's where it ranks. It was at times maybe a little bit of an effort to watch maybe at times. So enjoyment factor might have been low, but from an industry standpoint, it still ranks very high in its aggregate.
I hear you. And I think you care more about the industry stuff than I do. For me, I'm like, I'm watching this to have fun. Am I having fun? No, I'm not in the last couple episodes. Not on the list. I think that's what it was. It's like, I just remember the last couple of weeks, it felt like a chore to like prep for the podcast and whatnot. And I never felt like that with Rings of Power or anything like that. So, and that was, Rings of Power was more work to prep. So I think that's where it had to fall off my list. But you're right. A++ on production. Like remember all like the picturesque screenshots we got of like, somebody standing in front of a doorway and you just see everything framed like a painting. Amazing. So I do want to shout that out.
When you look at Emma Darcy's performance or Reese Ifan's performances, just exceptional, right? We got a little Paddy Constantine, I think, back in this one.
Oh, yeah.
He was great in season 1.
Paddy Zompsidine.
Yeah. Millie, Matt, just some really potent acting. So that's it. Number 6.
Alicia?
Okay, my number 6 is the Penguin, which was just...
Wow, so low?
You think that's so low? Well, yeah.
You got some other things in there that are going to be much higher, so it makes sense. I
mean, I guess the reason why it's slightly less... I was going to say because it's so dark, but then I have some rather dark things. But it wasn't as humorous as some of the others, and I enjoy dark humor the most, so that tends to get up higher. But it was just, the writing, obviously, the acting, just completely forgot most of the time that it was Colin Farrell. Kristen Milotti was a real revelation.
Yeah, she was the highlight.
Yeah, I'm surprised she didn't get like more recognition at some of the awards that are being called out now. But anyway, it was just an absolutely superlative show. And I think probably it sounds like David has it ranked higher. So he's going to gush about it some more.
Anybody want to take a guess where Jean has it ranked?
In the top 3, I know for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, that's true. We do know based on formatting, it's in the top 3.
Well, yeah, but I just know in general. Yeah, I think his top 3 includes this Agatha, and I guess I should be able to guess the other. Anyway, no, we'll let him say.
Yep.
I had a lovely conversation with him about his top 3. So,
and thank you for filling in. I was supposed to do all the top 3 conversations, and my voice decided it was dead for a few days.
Well, I'm not going to let you get away with doing it all next year. I had a good time talking with everybody.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
One of my favorite things to do is to engage with our affiliates.
Have a little amuse-bouche,
Yes.
Yeah. All right, mine. Unless you want to say anything else, Alicia.
No, I think we'll be talking about the Penguin more in a bit, I'm sure.
I think we will. Mine is Fargo. I didn't want to let this one go. This is one of those that started in 2023 and ended in 2024. I thought season 5 was excellent. I didn't watch any Fargo before this. And it really subverted my expectations in the best way with that ending. If you'll recall, there was a whole thing where we thought there was going to be something super violent, and it was a very different ending than it was leading to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of subverting expectations I want, right? I always say, like, don't subvert them only. You have to exceed them too.
Mm.
And that show exceeded it. And Juno, what's her name?
Temple?
Yeah.
Juno Temple.
Yeah.
Amazing performance the whole way. John Hamm, an excellent villain. And Old Munch. I mean, what a memeable guy that we just love.
You know what? I forgot about this, and this is also on my biggest misses list.
She's adding it to her list now.
The list is like a CVS receipt at this point.
I am glad that you put it on the list, John. I'm glad to see it up there. I didn't include, because I think I included it in my 23 list.
Oh, okay.
Sight unseen, finale unseen. So I'm glad, and I saw it a bunch on the community surveys, if I'm correct.
Yeah, I think it had. I can tell you how many points it got. It's not on their top 10.
No, but it got some acknowledgement. So I'm glad that you put it there, and
it got
I think
15. It got at number 15 on the community ranking.
I think it deserves. It would have been on this list if I hadn't been thinking about because I don't think we had. The whole question of does it start or does it end, and like where does it, where do we fit it in? So I'm glad you covered it, and we had a really great podcast. We did a one shot about it.
Yeah, I think we did.
Did we do two? Yeah, we did a 2-shot on it.
Yeah. All right, the community says it's The Bear. The Bear number 6.
Did you ever finish it, John?
I watched episode 1.
Wow,
that was it.
Of the new season.
Of the new season.
Okay, yeah. I'm halfway through the new season. I haven't finished it yet either.
It is a radically different show. Radically different. Is that can I say that? Is that too much? It's different. This season is very different than the previous 2 seasons, and in many ways, it's more of a. I hate to use this phrase, a tone poem. But I don't know how else to describe it. There's just much more vibe stuff going on as opposed to dramatic advancement of story and character. And in some ways it felt, it meandered a little bit for me. And that's why I didn't make the top 10. It just didn't have the punch that season 2. And I don't know if that's because it failed. It set its own bar so high that it couldn't get over it. But not only did it not go over it, it almost wasn't playing the same game as episodes or seasons 1 and 2. So,
okay.
Don't expect fishes. Don't expect, the crazy highs and lows and super energetic stuff. There is one episode that's like that, but then the rest of the season, it's very different. It's very,
I was glad after episode 2 that it backed off the constant stress factor, because I was finding that wearing. And I do think that there are some. I really loved the first episode, and I think what was it, like maybe the 4th episode or something was another one I really liked. Like there were moments that I'm really into it, and I'm enjoying watching it. It just keeps getting shoved down under all this other stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
All right. I think we're up to number 5.
All right, top 5.
Pachinko is my number 5. Pachinko season 2. It was a late fit for me in terms of getting it in. I had a weird little window where I was able to binge it. What were we covering? Rings of Power when it was airing concurrently?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and I just didn't have the emotional bandwidth to handle it. And in some ways, I feel a little bit cheated. I've cheated myself because I binged it. And so, binging, you don't pick up details in the same ways. It certainly could have been a short form podcast for us to have covered if we had the bandwidth for it, because there's so much episode to episode. And I really would have liked to watch it week to week, but feasibility was not there. But we've already said a bunch about it, and I'll just re-highlight the fact that the historicity is amazing. The actors, the casting is so good. main character, the fact that the character is played by different actors over the different time periods, because it is this incredible weave of storytelling across time. And you don't always understand how things connect or why they connect, but they will cut and jump time sequences. And there are direct and overt reasons to connect things. And then other times you don't know what or why they connected a couple of scenes, and then it unfolds later or even unfolds in another season. So from a craftsmanship standpoint, this thing is exquisite. It's so faceted and so intricate and so intricately built. It's amazing. And again, the acting is phenomenal, deeply, deeply soulful. And I'm just a sucker for a lot of the stuff that they're throwing at us. People struggling with shame and and then going through some sort of transformation, people persevering and enduring, deep family connections, heartfelt drama, just good. It's just across the board. It lights me up everywhere. So go watch it if you have not.
Very nice. Very nice. I have to watch it. Alicia, what's your top 5?
So number 5, and I can't believe that this is so low, but still it's top 5, The Acolyte. And for me, The Acolyte is just peak Star Wars. Like, obviously, I had so much fun putting together the podcast from the lore perspective, obviously, because this has mined the Legends lore, like, we've rarely seen in canon before. And yes, the new Disney canon, but that's canon. And you brought up Plagueis, that we saw cortosis, the shorting out of just the lightsaber fights are so freaking cool. Like, all of them were amazing. I loved the characters. I loved the character of Chimere. They got me falling for the bad boy again. I loved also, we got space witches. I really want to know more about that coven. I want to know more about, these locations they introduced, like Brendock. I want to know more about, obviously, yes, we have the High Republic novels and we have some continuations going, but I will be sitting here holding my breath waiting for season 2. Someday they're going to have to continue the story of this at some point. And this one, The Acolyte, is one that keeps showing up on lists at the top of lists of where people are saying the shows that the most shocking and upsetting cancellations, basically. So there is still a lot of support, a lot of people who want more of this. And I do think someday we're going to get it. Hopefully they don't wait too long, because I will be turning blue in the face. And the only reason it's not higher is just the 4 shows on top of it, I think, are more perfect, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It was not a flawless show. It was really excellent, though. And I'm glad to see it so high on your list. I'm not shocked either.
No.
Based on how much you liked it during.
Either I am not shocked. For the record.
What's your number 5?
My number 5. Again, I don't remember what I put this. The Rings of Power.
Oh, nice.
I really thought that this was a great comeback story. This was excellent compared to season 1, especially. Yeah, I did yell about Grand Elf a little bit at the end, but the finale overall worked for me. It was just a few little cringy moments, and that is why it's not higher on this list, but it's also why it's not lower on this list, is that they did tie up everything nicely. They did set us up for an amazing season 3. Tom Bombadil, man, did that make me go in with low expectations, and man, did they nail it, and I'm furious at them for nailing it, because we could have had this in Peter Jackson. We didn't. And so I can't believe how much better this season was than season 1. I actually felt like people like Gil-galad had a personality where they really didn't in season 1. Ben Daniels, I'm gonna nominate him for character actor of the year between this and Interview with the Vampire. I know Foundation was last year, but he was really great in Foundation. So yeah. I could gush about Rings of Power. It was for this Tolkien nerd. They really brought it to life in a way that I haven't seen since the PJ movies.
Okay.
Rory Kinnear walked a very fine line
Yes, he did.
Very fine. And I thought he incredibly pulled it off in that there's one particular painting of Tom Bombadil, with the hat and the boots, and he's kicking up a thing. And it's kind of the iconic thing that set maybe what we at writ large think about Tom Bombadil, which is a goofball. And I don't think that I think the nuance that Kinnear brought is that he's not a goofball. He's irreverent because he's such a powerful character. He doesn't fear a lot of things. He's got this different vibe to him, and to pull that off was really bravo, a well done moment.
Yeah, he's eldest, right? He is matter of fact in everything, and I think that feels strange to people because he's so matter of fact. When the stranger takes the branch from the tree, and he goes, "Well, why didn't you ask him?" Like he's just so matter of fact with things, and that feels alien to us. And so anyway, this is not a Rings of Power podcast. Go listen to like the million podcasts we did on it. I just love the show. Number 5 for the community was Agatha All Along, which is our first triple-digit vote that had 100 points.
Woohoo! Deserves
We're
even
talk more about
No.
that, I'm sure. Yeah.
In a minute.
Down to the last 4. We've got David's number 4.
So one of these late entry, dark horse, not a lot of pre-publicity, and haven't finished it yet, but not unlike Fargo, I am going finale unseen and ranking it at my number 4, Say Nothing. This is an extraordinary drama about the troubles in Northern Ireland, about I'm not sure the historicity of it. I've used that word like 3 times in this podcast. As far as I can tell, that there is inspired by or based upon real life story stuff. It is told slightly out of time as well, where there's sort of it's still in the past, but not in the far, far past, of primary characters retelling what happened during that time. And then we get the dramatization of that. It's about a pair of sisters who are growing up in Belfast during the Troubles and who get involved with the Irish Republican Army. Jerry Adams plays the character. Jerry Adams is prominent in this as well. And it's an extraordinary character drama of watching these 2 sisters navigate this incredibly dangerous and complex landscape. And at the same time, there's like, if it's like 75% really difficult, dramatic things to watch as 2 communities who have a lot of anger and vitriol towards each other, and then all this war, this very low level war going on, and then there's this weird 25% of it where this show is hilarious. It's funny, it's irreverent, and it makes the rest of it palatable. The mixture, it's just enough, whipped cream to, pie filling, or, however you want to, do that analogy. Beautifully shot, superbly acted, superbly written, an absolute, if it would be higher if I had finished it, and assuming that the finale is, lands. But again, it's just one of these things where like, where did this come from? Where was the publicity? Why is it coming out so late? It's just it's one of these late season heaters, and it is extraordinary.
There's been a lot of late shows this year, which is, is very different than most years. Usually people are very scared to put things out around the holidays. I don't know what changed.
Yeah, because you mentioned Lee Jung Jae earlier, and I just wanted to shout out that apparently a new Squid Games came out.
Yeah.
So I obviously haven't even watched that because it's just, I mean, it's not that they did like a whole podcast setup and stuff, but it's just, why is there so much competing for my attention in December of all months?
And there was a Squid Games live action thing where they actually did like a reality, not like a scripted drama, but like actual.
There were
normal,
a couple different versions of that. But yeah, those were But I just can't believe they're unceremoniously after Squid Games season 1 fanfare. Like, why are they just dropping it in December? Is there something Like, was there some meeting in the industry where they're like, December's a new hot month where people are watching stuff, and now there's just too much?
I wonder if it's just that they're an production overload, and they're like, well, nobody ever drops anything in December. Let's schedule this for them.
There was a lot of conversation at the beginning of the year prior to the strike about volume. And now that the quote unquote streaming wars are settling down and there's some stability into, and people are figuring out the mechanics that they need to, figure out how the market is working and to match that, there was an overabundance of production. And now they're looking at, well, how do we pare that back down? So I think we might have just ended up with this backlog of stuff, like a big dam of content, and they're just kind of releasing it so that they can clear the decks a little bit. I don't know. That's just complete conjecture.
Who knows?
Sorry for the Disney sound, but I just added Say Anything to my watch list.
Oh,
or Say Nothing.
Yes, I know. I kept doing that too. Say Anything is just like, wait, But Say Nothing refers to like keeping mum when you're being interrogated by the authorities. Right. So, all right.
Alicia, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Shogun. So,
okay.
I mean, yeah, I don't think I need to justify being this high on the list. The only reason it's not higher is because there were some really
many other good things.
Yeah, there's some really excellent things that came out this year. And because this one pretended that people were speaking Portuguese and Dutch when they're speaking English. No, I'm just kidding.
Listen, I'm sorry.
Even though they nailed the historic Japanese, right?
Yeah, no, they did. Yeah, they nailed the Japanese side. They nailed the Japanese side. But no, in all seriousness, obviously I was composing poetry to Mariko at the end. Like, I was all in on this show. I continue to think about it. Something about the season 2 maybe dulled a little bit of the. I'm worried about the season 2, but obviously I'm on board, and I assume we'll be covering that.
Oh yeah, you got to cover it. I hope that it's good. I hope that it's good. And I'll be honest. Yeah, James Clavell was the source material for this, but some of the best stuff was not at all from the novel.
No, I credit the team who made this, the writers.
Yeah. So I'm okay with them going off script because I think James Clavell is kind of ancillary to the success of this show, to be honest with you.
No, it's not about going off script. It's just that it had the perfect ending, and now a lot of the characters that we loved are gone, and it just feels like it was perfect and complete. And now they're opening it up to feeling, I don't know, like they're open. Yeah.
Well, now I get to have my earworm back of you, Alicia, saying "the honor of women."
The honor of women.
That was an earworm in my head for like a week after you shouted that on the podcast. Every time I thought about the show.
So I'm the first one to mention Shogun, so I assume that there will be more discussion of it.
There will be more discussion of it.
What's your number 4, John?
Who knows? The Penguin.
Who knows? Ah.
Wow,
The
low
Penguin.
again. Wow.
Low, come on.
High.
It's top
Number
5.
4.
As they say on Top Chef, you get sent home for cooking an excellent meal, right? It's harder and harder to get to that number 1 spot.
Yeah. And the Penguin, I mean, I could do without the fat suits. I don't love people using fat suits. We don't have to do that. We don't have to demonize people with heavier body types. It's really a thing. I encourage you both to look up literature on this. People are very anti fat suits these days, and I agree with that. But Colin Farrell did the performance of his lifetime, and I think he did an incredible job. And I don't blame him for the fat suit. And Kristen,
but I also think he couldn't have done it without it. So.
I think he could have. I don't think the Penguin needed.
Is your fat suit like this is a serious? Are you being a little tongue in cheek, or are you being?
No, I think that we should
honest?
stop using fat suits. I think we should either cast fat people, and I'm using that as a preferred term of people who are in that activism community. I think we should either cast people who consider themselves fat, or we should rewrite the character so that the character doesn't have to be fat.
Interesting. Okay,
that's what I think.
Okay,
You know,
we could do a whole other podcast about deconstructing that statement. But
I think
in
a good
general,
way,
I agree,
in a good way. I'm not arguing with you.
In general, I agree, but I would point to this as like, and I'm never going to be absolute about, well, not about most things, obviously. There are points, but I think that this is one example that shows where it was well done, well used. I think Colin Farrell could not have played the part. He would have been too recognizable if he were not completely transformed. And that also has a lot to do with the, probably even more to do with the facial makeup.
I think more to do with the facial makeup. Also, I don't even know Colin Farrell from anything else.
What?
I don't.
I mean, come on, that's a you thing.
No, that's
very much a you thing.
No. All right. Well, anyway, I don't want to get hung up on the fat suit thing because I think that the performances from him and Kristen Milioti were incredible. I think I said on our Penguin Wrap-Up podcast that I think Milioti has been overlooked for years. I think she was amazing in How I Met Your Mother. She did an episode of 30 Rock she was amazing in. Everything I've seen her in, she has given 110% to, and she is committed to the bit, and this is absolutely hilarious. I still will always remember her at 30 Rock shouting, "Liz Lemon is a Judas to all women." I mean, just amazing delivery of any line that she's given, and the way that she does this accent that should sound silly, but absolutely doesn't, sounds like it's genuine from her, and is able to deliver these serious lines while affecting her voice so much. The way that she performed in the asylum scenes, absolutely incredible. The tragedy of Vic will continue to be one that haunts me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to spoil everything entirely, but it's just amazing. I can't believe they pulled off a Batman story without Batman.
Yeah. Agreed.
And
anyway,
it seems the community agrees with you as well.
I know. I swear I didn't cheat. I wrote this before I tallied the community rankings.
I think you win in most concordance with.
I licked my finger. I put it up in the air, and I felt the direction of the wind. So this is the community number 4 as well, coming in with 105 points, so just over Agatha all along.
And I wonder how many people actually watch it. Was there how did it rank on the biggest miss? I wonder.
Biggest miss for Penguin. Penguin had 2 points for biggest miss, so 2 votes. So not much.
Not many. So
we didn't have a huge turnout. We had a few more than last year, but we didn't have a huge turnout on this. Right. We have to decide next year how we get more people involved in this voting.
Yeah. It's part of it is, and I looking on what the Discord, some of the comments on the Discord were. There was, I forget who it was. Somebody said, "Can we call this the agony?" Because this year was so difficult, which is a joke to Dune. But it is this thing of you got to keep track. The show tracker last year, I kind of gave up on updating it halfway through. This year, I think we're going to have a much more accurate show tracker for subscribers. Nancy's been helping out. So, and we're going to community source titles a little bit more. So that will help. But it is really a trick of record keeping. And then for people to sit down and go, this is a lot of work. So, I use the TV Time app. And so I'm able to see like in what months I was watching what. And that's been really helpful. Right. So we'll see. We can talk about our top 10 and reminding people over the course of the year, so that by the end of the year they're not. And plus, we gotta start advertising it earlier. Yeah, I write down everything that I watch in an app, and I recommend everyone do the same. Just in my notes app. Right. Okay. So all right. Let's get into the top 3. Yes. Let's do this, David. Bring us into the final countdown. To reveal Ripley. Okay. This show was absolutely gorgeous. So yes, this is a variation on the Amazing Mr. Ripley storyline, made famous by, who was it? It was, how about them apples? Matt Damon? Matt Damon. That was the more popular one. I think there was another version of the movie as well. I not unlike Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I did not come to the show because of the past film history of this movie. Of the book. But because because of the actors and the prestige that it was. And I started the show and then I stopped it and then I picked it up again just because of the podcasting workload. This film follows the main storyline of the Amazing Mr. Ripley. What is it? I forget, whatever the actual official title is, but basically where it's an assumed identity storyline that takes place in Italy with a group of Americans. And this show is probably one of the most visually beautiful shows I have ever watched in my life. It's all done in black and white. It's done in the black and white that I love, which is very high contrast, inky blacks, but where the white is not so blown out that you don't, that you lose detail. So it's just the contrast is beautiful. The storyline is a quasi murder mystery, again, assumed identity storyline. There were episodes where my heart was absolutely pounding out of my chest. I was so nervous for what was going to happen in a really intense, high stakes way, not in a, cringe humory kind of way or anything like that, but like actual genuine, like what is going to happen? I don't know what's about to happen. And I'm really nervous for everybody that I see on screen. I think Andrew Scott plays a standout performance for his career. Dakota Fanning is great. Johnny Flynn is amazing. And there's a handful of other characters. The Italian police detective is phenomenal. It's exquisitely crafted. And it ranks above Pachinko for me in as much as the visuals of this were better than Pachinko. And I think Pachinko is one of the best shot films or TV shows that I've ever seen as well.
Very nice.
So absolutely adored this. And I was so happy that I went back and finished it because it was a real thriller. So yeah, if you like murder mystery thriller-y kind of stuff, this is so good.
Okay.
Very nice.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be does it? What's that?
On my miss list too.
Okay. That's the deadly part of top tens is like, your miss list just grows and grows. And I don't think I don't think it ranked at all did it in the community rankings, John?
Ripley?
Yeah.
Ripley got number 11. So Ripley was almost on the list. It lost by 1 point to Arcane.
Wow.
I was going to say, there was some good buzz about it on the server.
So good. So good.
Yeah. So it was close. It was close to getting into the list. Alicia?
Okay, so my number 3 is Pachinko. So yeah, it's just, as David said, it's one of the most gorgeously shot ever. But of course, I'm always going to drill down on what about the characters? And I'm obsessed with the characters. I can't stop thinking about them. I can't stop thinking about like Sunja and Hansu. And yeah, probably part of this is because we keep podcasting about it. But it's
Regency bias.
It's just but it's just perfect in every way, in every level of the production and the acting and the writing. And I am now have the book loaded up, dying to read it. We're going to figure out some form of book club. I just want more of this story, and it engrossed me a lot with the way the characters intercept with history and the questions of identity. And I think that's also probably what it has a lot to do with is I've always been someone who, for various reasons, has felt an in-betweenness in my identity. Like, for instance, I'm a dual citizen. So I'm part of 2 countries, but neither at the same time, and that's been the thing in a lot of my life has been like that. So this is a show that does particularly speak to that as well.
Very nice.
Really good.
I really got to check this show out. Everybody says it's so good.
Yeah.
One day you'll convince me.
Does Maya like the kind of soulful drama?
Maya doesn't watch a lot of TV. She does. I mean, she'll watch what I'm watching, but like that's pretty much the TV we watch.
But when she does she like a soulful drama?
I think so. She loved Blue Eyed Samurai. That was like her show of the year last year.
This is not Blue Eyed Samurai.
No.
No.
That's pretty soulful, though.
No, yeah, true, but it's not animated violence. So,
but then, all right, fair enough. And she loved the Penguin. So I think she's in for a good drama.
Okay. Your number 3, sir.
My number 3, and this is where I call the Alicia Influence Corner, Agatha All Along.
Yay!
Wow.
Is my number 3.
Wow.
I had more fun with this show than most shows this year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe any show this year? No, most shows this year.
Wow.
And I just think that Catherine Hahn is a genius. And we should all be bowing down to her.
Truly.
Because her range, her comedy is just something that's incredible. And something that I really appreciate is it's incredibly difficult to create a good ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
And this was it. This was an amazing, flawless ensemble. So yeah, I mean, I can't say enough good about this show. I feel like this is just going to be Alicia's like 1 or 2. So I'm going to let her gush about it more in a minute.
It hasn't been on the list yet. So
it hasn't been on the list yet. And I'm sure it's going to be on the list. But yeah, for me, it has to be number 3. Has to be number 3.
Okay.
And the Community is here with House of the Dragon. They liked it a lot better than we did.
Good.
Yeah.
It's interesting to look at the Community top 3 too, because they're all big title shows.
Right.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Because I think it's also comes down to that a lot of people don't necessarily have time to watch all the shows. And so these are the shows they're more likely to watch.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think the ranked choice voting does account for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if a lot of people put for their number 5 that they love Frieren could still win.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. Is like if like a lot of people watched Rings of Power, but it was all number 10, then it's probably not going to win. So I do think that the ranked choice voting helps like get away from just the mob mentality wins.
Right. Agreed.
David.
All right. Number 3 is 2. Sorry. Shogun.
Very nice.
Yeah.
There's can't argue with it. Again, can I use the word historicity one more time? If you're playing along at home, take another shot. Absolute tour de force, beautifully shot, extraordinarily acted. I think the thing that I love the most about the story is that or let me rephrase that. The thing that I respect most about this show is that they were able to reframe the story relative to the cultural point of view of the original source material and book and the original television series, limited series. And that they were able to, rather than othering anybody, they were able to balance that extraordinarily well done.
Yeah.
And not an easy thing to do. And I too was very happy and satisfied with a end, like season, just a limited series. Great, tell your story, fabulous, so good. Yep. I'm nervous about a quote unquote season 2, but I also have a lot of faith in the creatives behind this production that they'll be able to see their way through that tricky, navigate those tricky waters. And if they don't try to go, oh, what does Blackthorn do the next morning he wakes up? But we jump in time or place and we move the story into a different plot and a different intricacies of plot, then I think we'll be fine.
I wish they would do, it sounds like they're continuing the story with the characters we have. And of course there is, they can pull from history and do that. But I wish that they would do an anthology and just jump to a completely different period and keep the same cast.
Right.
I think that both of Mariko's husbands will fall in love. And that's how we'll start season 2.
Excellent.
Alicia?
All right. So my number 2 is Agatha All Along. And yeah, it was fun. It was emotional. It was every single character. This was really an ensemble show where they had limited background characters. Like, it was nice to see the neighbors from WandaVision come back and do their bits were always great, especially Herb. But they just really were able to showcase they could have done Jen a little bit more. But yeah, I just every character had me caring about them, had me invested in where did they come from, where are they going, what are they struggling with. But also, I was just having an absolute blast, laughing and singing and putting together like the most highly produced episodes that I think I've done. This show got me hooked, hook, line, and sinker all the way. And the only reason it's not number one is there's one other show that just does everything that all the other shows do. Yeah.
Quick power ranking. You don't have to do the whole thing, but how high does this rank in your Marvel television shows? Not movies, but just television only.
I think it's number one. Yeah. Okay. It's number one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would agree with. I would be in the same position with this. It was a solid. It was a solid win for Marvel too. It was like after the show that shall not be named, to be able to then put this on screen. Good job, guys! Like, thank you for like sorting yourselves out.
There was also us in the LGBTQ witch crowd needed a win after what happened with Acolyte.
Right, fair point.
And that's not on. I'm not putting that on the show. I'm putting that on certain swaths of the audience, especially.
Yeah, David, that's interesting that you say that this would be your number one too, because I think you ranked Loki last year and you didn't rank Agatha this year.
Yeah, I would say maybe it's Loki. Loki and Agatha are going to be like, how am I feeling that day? Maybe that's the truth of it. Yeah, because the ending of Loki season 2 was beautiful, but this Agatha's storyline, even though it's her show and there's a bunch that's not about her and it's about all these other characters, when you bring that all back around, the topic matter that they deal with and how they deal with it is extraordinarily well done. It is a really good show, even though it doesn't rank as high on my list as it could.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for personified death. I mean, the Discworld stuff I love. So yeah. Well, cool.
Yeah. What's your number 2?
My number 2, continuing with the Alicia influence, is Interview with the Vampire.
John.
I knew it had to be high up there.
Wow.
Yeah. He's already told me he wants to do next season.
Oh, really? Okay.
I can't believe how
Do we have a date?
This show was.
No.
Okay.
We don't have a date now, but
there's already teasers out.
It was. I mean, I have a crush on Lestat that will never go away.
As it should be. That's how you know it's well done. Because he's a problem child too.
Exactly. Like I want him to hurt me. You know what I mean? Like the performances absolutely amazing. Louis annoys me sometimes, but I think he's supposed to.
Right.
Armand.
Yeah.
I want to hit him and I want to hug him. And all these people are so problematic, and yet you want to understand them more. Again, Ben Daniels, amazing performance in season 2.
For me, it's the best of the Ben Daniels.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And dealing with a recast of one of the main characters and dealing with it so well is an incredible feat.
I was so nervous about how she was going to do, but then I ended up liking her even more. And someone pointed out that maybe it was a good thing because the first version... So the first season of Claudia, she's more naive, and then the second season, she's more, she's been a vampire for a while. So that kind of, the recast kind of worked in that way, and that there are different personalities.
Well, since I've now seen the promo of Lestat being a sarcastic musician, I am all in for season 3. You're not going to be able to kick me off that pod, Alicia. I'm coming in. I'm invading the interview space.
Excellent. And we'll mention that Mayfair Witches is having a new season coming out soon.
I'm not covering that.
No. But we'll mention it at the beginning of the season 3 pod in case there's anything. Because they are part of the same universe.
They are, yeah. I'll watch it, but I'm not covering that.
No.
Way. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Community says The Rings of Power is number 2.
Okay.
Which is very cool. I'm glad that the community is really, that could be just that we were originally a Rings of Power pod and a lot of people started with us there. But yeah, I mean, amazing comeback story. I think we've kind of hashed that out. David, your number one show.
Here it is.
Of 2024.
And it's an unlikely pick for me because this is not my preferred genre. But I cannot. It's really hard for me to fault this show. And it's really hard for me to compete with the enjoyment that I had watching it, The Penguin.
Okay, cool.
I had a great time watching this. I was constantly amazed at the acting and the performances. I love the fact that they were able to pull off a superhero genre without a superhero showing up once. We got, is that a spoiler? I don't know. It's not a spoiler. That's general call.
Yeah, that's fine.
I won't say anything else about it. I thought that from an industry standpoint, I was debating with myself if this was an 11 or a 10 for me. 11 in my book is something that shifts the overall industry and pushes, new directions and opens up new spaces. It's real borderline for me on that. But the argument for it is that they navigated the big screen to small screen back to the big screen thing. If the movie pans out and the stakes that were raised by this movie really pay off in that, then I think they've cracked part of the code. I mean, people have been trying this for a while now, but have they been successful? Question mark. Debatable, arguable. This, I think, if the movie works and it picks up on what the TV show put out there, then I think that'll be a real game changer. I've said this before, Colin Farrell, absolute stand-up performance. Kristen Milotti, amazing. I was captivated by her for the entire episode or the whole season. So really, and again, unexpected. I was like, oh, it's going to be a superhero drama thing, whatever. And it just really blew me away. The craft and the consideration that they put into it was phenomenal.
Very cool. Yeah. Penguin was great. Alicia.
Mine is obviously going to be Interview with the Vampire.
Whoa, wow.
Everything nice.
Not surprising, just like it's so high for everybody.
Just everything nice I said about all the other shows is true for this one, in terms of character development, in terms of the visual composition of the shots, in terms of the casting, the writing. Oh my God, the writing, the acting. Obviously there's great directing. The way they handle, special effects, it's minimal, it's mostly practical. So it just really superbly well done. The costuming, I laugh, I cry, I just watch certain scenes over and over again, like no spoilers, but from the second season, there's a scene where they're all in a kind of coffee house or a bar together. And I just, and then the entire everything about all of their relationships changes in one moment, just as one character realizes he did the wrong thing and it's too late. And oh my God, yeah. I just think about moments like that, or just that whole part in the 70s in that apartment in New York. Again, no spoilers, but it lives rent free in my mind. The portrayal of Ben Daniels being added this season. He plays an iconic character from the book, and he makes it even more iconic on screen. We didn't even really talk about Madeline, but she is a character that exists in the book, but they added so much complexity to her in the TV show. And one thing that they do particularly well with this is also, it also has to do with the historicity. They lean into that more. Like they shifted some of the timelines from the book, but I think that that's just added whole new layers to explore. And so, for example, the second season largely takes place in post-World War II Paris, and how that just changes and makes Madeline this more fully realized character. And she ended up being one of my favorites of the season, and she's like a almost nothing blip in the book, somebody who's just part of another character's arc. And this show, just every episode that I watch finds new ways to surprise me, to move me, to make me think and laugh too.
Yeah, a really incredible show. And if I could just add, my sister was my daughter, was my throw pillow, but he didn't look at me kindly. Lestat. Okay.
Yeah,
Iconic
she
line
said
that
some
lives
of the.
in my
She
head
said some
rent
of the
free.
craziest lines.
Yeah. It really did have like these iconic moments as well as having depth. And that is something that is really hard to do in a show.
Right. What's your
Well,
number one?
I've got to close it out with another community agreement on Shogun. And the reason is
you're pandering.
I'm not pandering. I'm pottering. I don't know. Look, I don't know another show that has exceeded my expectations the way Shogun has done. And the episode that convinced me was Crimson Sky. Was this idea of this whole season where, all right, so we have the character drama, but it's clearly all leading to this big battle, right? We're going to have this big war between the different factions, and it's going to be bloody, and we're going to spend all the budget for the season. We're going to blow it all in one shot. No. Anna Sawai is going to walk through the door as she is going to take down a fucking empire just by dying, just by peacefully dying. What? The fact that she was Crimson Sky all the time was an incredible twist. It was an incredible way to subvert expectations while exceeding them. I need D&D from Game of Thrones to just go and watch this show and learn what subverting expectations means so that we can take that phrase back, because this was absolutely incredible. And Anna Sawai, I think that's the reason I'm most nervous about season 2 is without Anna Sawai, I don't know where the show goes. She was really the highlight of the show.
Yeah. That's also my problem. And also, what's his name? Yabushige? No, Yabushige is the main guy.
Yeah, Yabushige. Yabushige was the guy who's always scheming.
Yes, Yabushige. Okay, yeah. I also think a lot. I think about. Are we allowed to spoiler this? I guess it's been.
I already
for a while
did.
Now.
So
yeah, but I think about also his death moment and him just like looking back at the last moment. Like, are you gonna let me go again? And it doesn't happen. And yeah, without those two characters, I'm a little nervous. That's why I wanted it to be an anthology series where they use the same cast again in a different story.
And using his death moment to let us into Toranagar's secret heart.
Right.
Amazing way to show and not tell, this idea of the secret heart, all the three hearts that people have and whatnot. Amazing. I just can't think of a show that did anything better.
And that poignant moment for what's his face, the Honor of Women, that you don't know if it's a happy ending for him or not.
Yeah.
It's both.
Yeah. Bittersweet. And the community, if you haven't guessed from the way we were talking about it, did vote Shogun. And let me tell you, this was not a close vote here.
It dominated.
262 points compared to 141 for Rings of Power.
Wow.
So this was over double the amount of points for Shogun.
That's significant. That is a clear and resounding thing. I think it's
spoken.
I guess when we look at it in terms of acting, character arc, and development and all that stuff, plot, like you said, subverting and twisting things, history, lots of like interesting things to look at and examine and understand. Was it a perfect Lorehounds show? Does it sort of tick all the quadrants or boxes or what have you? It to me, the fact that it so dominated the community vote, I think it does indicate that that's the case.
Let me make something else clear. Every single person who voted had this on their list somewhere and had it 6 or above.
Okay.
That's an interesting analysis, right? Like where the distribution.
Yeah. Every single person watched this and voted it.
Wow. Very cool. Nice. All right.
Well, we did it, everyone. I have one bonus question for everyone before we go.
Okay. Well, let me a quick honorable mentions.
Honorable mention.
Steve. It's about it's a documentary in 2 parts about Steve Martin. Absolutely amazing, super good. And along the lines of that, We Are the World, a documentary about the way that the We Are the World song came together. Really, if you're of my generation and those were important markers or an individual or a cultural thing, those are really, really great little shows to pick up.
And then we had 2020 where all the celebrities of the world thought it would be fun to do Imagine together, and we all cringed within our homes.
Yeah.
Remember that? I'm not letting anybody forget that. Anyway, go on, Alicia.
Okay, so my honorable mentions is so first of all, I really enjoyed the live action Avatar: The Last Airbender. I was really worried about it going in, but actually I thought that they did a good adaptation, great casting, and I really enjoyed it. I also wanted to shout out What If Season 3. I haven't been able to watch it yet because they're doing this dumb drop thing where they're going to drop it between the 22nd and the 30th of this month. So it's not eligible for next year. It's not, and nobody's gotten to see it.
Wow.
But I really enjoyed the first 2 seasons, and this 3rd season looks epic. We're going to have Storm showing up. We're going to have Agatha showing up. We're going to have all of the storylines of the past 2 seasons are coming together, and I'm super excited about that. And one show, I've only gotten to watch 1 episode of it so far, but it is because it was one, like, I sort of panicked, watched an episode at the end. But several of my friends, including Simon, who was on Doctor Who with us, John, have been, you have to watch this. This is a show of the year, and it's Supercell, and it's set in South London, and it is has mostly Black protagonists, and it's like a sickle cell anemia analogy, but instead of that, they're getting superpowers. And I've watched the first episode so far, and the production design is so good. The cinematography, the photography, it's off to a really great start. So just wanted to shout that out in case people are interested.
Nice.
Last shout out, really quick, unless you have any honorable mentions, John.
I'll shout out Doctor Who. Doctor Who had a very good comeback this year, a very good return.
And you guys are going to be covering the Christmas episode?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes.
And the new season. There's a new season coming, right?
Next year. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think May-ish is usually the time.
The other big shout out is Alicia. This is your first official top 10 as a full Lorehound as part of the Triarchy. So welcome, and thank you for being here. Thank you for agreeing to play in the sandbox that is the Lorehounds. So
thank you for inviting me to join your recess.
I love the fact that, your and I's tastes sometimes aren't always loud up, but I love the fact that your eclecticness adds so much to our conversations and to our community. And so, I'm just really pleased that you're here.
And you've definitely influenced me if you look at my list. So
Totally, right? Totally.
Yay!
Well,
Everybody watch Interview with the Vampire and Agatha all alone. You can't say it; you have to sing it. It's part of
it. Right. You're legally obliged.
Well, I'm thrilled that you're here, Alicia. So thank you for being part of this team.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you, guys.
Now, Alicia, why don't you start? I want to ask you, what would you brand this year of TV? Or you can pass if you want, because I said this to you last night.
Oh, I missed that last night. Okay.
It was in the Discord.
I totally missed that. I was sorry. I was busy working the book project. I don't know. Yeah, you guys start, because I'm not even sure how to approach this question at the moment.
Yeah, I had a similar problem with this, and I was wondering, John, did you have a brand? Did it occur to you, and then that's where you came up with the question after?
Yes, I had an answer to my own question. Yeah,
before you even had the question.
Yeah, I reverse engineered this question that I
completely figured it was. Yeah. So, because you're clever like that too, with your wordplay.
You gotta be.
I couldn't come up with a word or a phrase or a sentence. I came up with a visual metaphor, which was the John Travolta in Pulp Fiction confused meme, where he's sort of standing there pointing in one direction and then pointing in another direction, and then sort of shrugs and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. That's what I felt. And it's not because of the quality of the shows or what shows were what. It was the fact that we were, like we talked about before, flooded with content, and it was very hard to absorb it, take it all in. My list of shows that I started and didn't finish is insanely long. And that is not the case. That has not been the case in years past. And so I just kind of felt like I was constantly looking around in a sort of a confused state. So that's my brand.
What's your brand, John? And I'll see if I can add to it.
I want to name this the Year of the Witch because it is
very
a
good.
comeback year for witchy stories.
100%.
Agatha, The Acolyte,
Yeah.
Frieren. I think that we have a lot of witchy stuff boiling up. Dune. Oh yeah, that was the other one I wanted to say. This is just a year of witchy stories in a way that I don't think that we've seen in a while.
Yeah, Wicked, of course.
Wicked. Oh yeah, duh.
Wait, he says you keep there's witches and references to witches and so many other
right.
True Detective even could be in a sense because they're a coven, right? The group of women, more details, but yeah, there's a group of women who affect something, and yeah.
Well, I think Wicked really epitomizes where this is coming from because it is. I'm going to give you an opening, John, to make fun of the Wicked marketing, but people are holding space for Defying Gravity this year for sure.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny. I don't actually have any beef with anybody.
But it really is. I think the reason why witches are popular this year. Marilyn and I did that episode for subscribers. That. It's a way of people saying like, I will not be silenced. I will not go quietly into the night.
And I don't want to go generally people. I think women are feeling particularly threatened this year.
Especially with things like, we don't talk about politics,
we don't have to get into details.
We know women are, not doing well. And also the LGBT community and So
I brand this the Year of the Witch. Do you have any brand ideas, Alicia?
To be honest, I was thinking something along the lines of witchy, but also what David said resonated with me. And I feel like it's the year of the clash where you see, like when David shared that list of the highest performing shows, there were shows on there like Fallout where I'm like, oh yeah, I agree. And then a bunch of shows that were where I realized that the majority of people are just not consuming the same entertainment that I am. And what I see a lot is things that I'm not so into, like the spy stuff or, there are exceptions, of course, but in general, the more, I don't even want to call them grounded because they're absolutely not, but the non-fantasy, non-sci-fi, non-horror stuff.
Primary worldy kind of stuff. Yeah.
But it feels like because the numbers are so high on those sorts of things that, like, look, for instance, right now, Moana 2 is dominating the movie theaters.
Huge.
And I don't hear anyone gushing about it the way I heard people gushing about films that didn't do as well, like Wild Robot. I mean, Wild Robot did fine, but it's not like the $1 billion thing. So I think there's this clash between what's the most accessible for the widest amount of people and what is really pushing the envelope in terms of, the witchy side of things. And that's just one example of what I mean by the pushing the envelope things. The Shogun was one that luckily did pretty well in both, but still.
Yeah.
It wasn't on that list David shared, was it?
I don't think so, no.
No.
Yeah, we are definitely getting into these more divided alternate realities of media consumption, which on the one hand, I love that we all have these options. On the other hand, I'm almost like, do we have a cultural consciousness anymore? Yeah.
It was number 6, Alicia.
Okay, so at least that one broke through. So there are these rare shows or films that manage to do both, like Wicked is doing now in the theaters, but it just feels like there's a divide, and I'm afraid of the shows I love being defunded.
Yeah,
like The Acolyte.
Right. Well, I think we have a lot to look forward to in 2025.
Oh my God, it's already overwhelming.
And we'll do our best to prop up the shows we want to come back.
Right.
I want to plug a couple of things. One, for subscribers. Thank you to all of the subscribers who, you guys don't understand the value and the impact of your subscription to what we do. It really makes the difference. We could not do this. without all of your material support. And there's a lot of benefits, and we talk often and we think often about, how to structure that, but just thank you. I also want to shout out the show guide. We'll have that more up to date this year, and that's a subscriber benefit that will help you keep track of show tracker. Sorry, not the show guide, the show tracker. Keep track of the shows that are coming on. Huge shout out to Nancy for all of the help that she provided this year and wrangling the feedback for Rings of Power and now for Dune, and she's helping with the show tracker as well. Huge shout out to our moderators on the Discord. We've lost track of Adrian, but I think he's been swallowed up in his change of things, but he's still part of our community, and we think of you often. But to Brian 8063 and Aaron, thank you guys so much for everything you do. Brian is also, we have a blog, so if you are a person who likes to write words and read words, we have a space for that as well, and I encourage you to submit things. If you go to the website, there's a blog link, and there's a post there that explains how to submit something. It's an open submission policy. What other thanks do we need to, or acknowledgements do we need to shout out for?
We do have a whole list.
We do of that list, but I meant in more general terms. Anyway,
our listeners, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here otherwise.
It was a strong year for us, and hopefully next year we'll even be stronger.
Yeah. I think we'll talk about year-end business stuff in the January second breakfast. So that way we have some more space to do that. For now, we've spent 2.5 hours talking about the top TV 2024. And you've heard it here. This is the definitive list. If you like anything off of this list, you're wrong. And that's that. And this will all be, by the way, in a visual format crafted with primarily the help of Gregsaw. So thank you. Send Gregsaw a thank you on the Discord channel when it posts, because we could not do this without him. I don't know how to use Tableau. I just don't know how to do it. And
that'll be on our website on the blog section.
Yes, so. we'll link to that in the blog. All right, everyone, let's give our thank yous. Who wants to do it?
You should just pick somebody. Don't Mark.
Okay, all right.
Because otherwise,
Alicia,
I don't have the list in front of me.
Okay, I have the list in front of me.
Okay,
I guess it's me by default. I'm leaving it in. All right, Discord server boosters: Aaron K, Tiller the Thriller, Dork of the Ninjas, Duve71, Athena A, Tina, Lestu, Nancy M, Ghost of Partition, Radioactive Richard, and Lore Masters: Samartian, Michael G, Michelle E, Brian P, SC, Peter OH, Bettina W, Adam S, Nancy M, Duve71, Brian 8063, Frederick H, Sarah L, Gareth C, Eric F, Matthew M, Sarah M, DJ Miwa, Andra B, Kwang Yu, Deadeye Jedi Bob, Nathan P, Alex V, Aaron T, Sub-Zero, Aaron K, Dally V, Mothership 61, Gnarls, Kathy W, Lestu, Jeffrey B, Elisa U, Neil F, Ben B, Scott F, Stephen N, and Adrian. Thank you, everyone, for a lovely year. Go listen to all the affiliates during the break and regularly. Just do it. Just do it in general. Don't wait for me to tell you. Watch Silo, and put it on your 2025 list so Alicia doesn't get upset.
Don't forget about it in 2025 because of John's rules. No, it's a reasonable rule.
All right, everyone. See you in the new year.
Happy holidays.
The Lorehounds podcast is produced and published by The Lorehounds. You can send questions and feedback and voicemails at thelorehounds.com/contact. Get early and ad-free access to all Lorehounds podcasts at patreon.com/thelorehounds. Any opinions stated are ours personally and do not reflect the opinion of or belong to any employers or other entities. Thanks for listening.